and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes and this video was supposed to be showing me removing the cylinder head from Esther, my Mk1 Escort, to try and see what's going on inside her ST170 engine. Now I have removed the cylinder head and I did film it, but then I went and accidentally deleted the files when I was trying to clear up space on my SD card. I did pay $60 for a month subscription to this application that is supposed to be able to recover deleted files, but that didn't work. So I've given up on it and I'm just going to talk you through what I found when I removed Esther's cylinder head, and I'll put some pictures on the screen to show you what I found. Now obviously deleting the files was really stupid of me, but I'm glad it's happened now rather than happening when I've travelled somewhere to make a video on someone's car or something like that. And the fact that it has happened now is going to make me be a lot more careful in future when I'm trying to delete files that I don't need anymore. Before I do start talking about Esther's engine, there is a little bit of footage that was supposed to be in this video, which I did actually put on my MacBook before I deleted the files, and that is the drawer for the carbon fibre switch panel that I was giving away in a competition. I basically put that into my MacBook because I've already shared that on my social media, so I have got that footage to show you now. It's time to see who has won the carbon fibre switch panel that I'm giving away in the competition. Only 38 entries, so that makes things simple. So the lower limit is 1 and the upper limit was it 38? And we'll click generate and the result is 27. So email number 27 is the winner. 24, 25, 26, 27. So it looks like Darren Ellis is the winner. So congratulations to Darren Ellis on winning the competition. I've actually already sent the switch panel to Darren along with a load of my stickers, and yeah, he's over the moon. Massive thanks to everyone else who took part in the competition, and massive thanks to Gary and Wayne and the rest of the guys at Tubby's Custom Composites for supplying the switch panel. Don't forget, if you're after any carbon fibre parts for your Mk1 Escort or for your classic Mini, definitely get in touch with the guys at Tubby's Custom Composites, and I'll leave a link to their Facebook page in the description of this video. Definitely go and give them a like and a follow on Facebook. I noticed recently that Gary has bought another fiberglass Mk1 Escort shell, and I'm guessing he's going to be taking the moulds from that to build his carbon fibre shelled Mk1 Escort. So yeah, definitely worth checking those guys out on Facebook. So go and give them a like and a follow. Now, before I get into Esther's engine, there is a couple of people I want to thank who have very kindly sent me some bits through the post recently. First of all, I want to send a massive shout out and a thanks to Matthew Shirley, who sent me a backboard piece to put in Maud, my Maud Mark II Escort, where her rear seats used to be. It's definitely tidied up the rear of the interior, and because it's only attached with little metal tabs, it's easy for me to remove if I do need to fill the car up with tools and tyres later on. So yeah, massive thanks for that, Matthew. I really appreciate it. Also, I want to send a huge shout out and a thanks to James Nicole, who very kindly sent me a pair of wiper blades. Now, those wiper blades that he sent me are black, and that's just what I was looking for because I have now, of course, painted my wiper arms black. So yeah, massive thanks to you, James. I really appreciate you sending me those wiper blades. Right, so let's get into what I found in Esther's engine. I went around the garage a couple of times before work and spent some time removing stuff like the throttle bodies and disconnecting the exhaust manifold, etc, etc, etc. Eventually took the rocker cover off, removed the camshafts and removed the head. And what I found was plenty of debris in cylinder 1 from that spark plug, which was kind of to be expected. To recap, the spark plug that was actually broken was from cylinder 2. And when I took the spark plugs out to give them a clean, I cracked them all off, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I started removing them 4, 3, 2, 1. So I've removed spark plug 2, which was broken, which I didn't realise. Obviously taken the spark plug out of the tool and then put the tool onto spark plug 1, where obviously all the bits of spark plug have fell around number 1 spark plug, and then when I've taken number 1 spark plug out, the bits have obviously fallen into cylinder 1. So as I say, there was plenty of debris in cylinder 1. What I also noticed on cylinder 1 was the top of the piston was damaged. It's got like loads of sort of pits in it. Now, I don't know whether that's been caused by debris, but there was also the same damage on the cylinder head right above where I found that damage on the piston. Now the thing is, I also found the same damage to the piston and the cylinder head in cylinder 2. There wasn't any damage to the valves in either of those cylinders, and all the valves seemed like they were seated properly. Obviously with the camshafts out, the valves just sort of, you know, retract right back up. Visually, they looked like they were seated okay and there was no marks on them or anything. The damage on the head was sort of to the side of the valves, and then obviously the damage on the pistons was directly below the damage on the head. Also, what I noticed with the head gasket, it's obviously made up of multiple layers, and the bits of the head gasket that are in between the cylinders, the pieces were separated. I'll put a picture up now, but yeah, basically you could, you know, see air through it. Now, I don't know whether that's an issue. Obviously, when it's all clamped down and stuff, I'm guessing they'd be all nice and tight, but I'm pretty sure when you buy a head gasket, it's all sandwiched together and stuck together. Now, it's worth noting that this engine always had what I would consider to be low compression. It was about 120 PSI across all cylinders. I'm only comparing it to Maud's engine, which had done 90,000 miles before I put it in her. And whenever I do a compression test on that, even though I've been thrashing it for the last few years, it's always at around 175 PSI. So I always thought that Esther's ST170 engine was quite low at 120 PSI. And I just basically assumed that maybe ST170s were lower compression, maybe something to do with the VVT. I don't know. You know, it's all guesswork. I'm not an expert. And to recap, as I mentioned in the last video, when I'd done a compression test then, cylinder 1 was at about 50 PSI and the rest were about 100 PSI, I think. So that's what made me decide to definitely take the cylinder head off. So to summarise, I found debris in cylinder 1. I found damage to the piston and to the cylinder head in cylinders 1 and 2. And I found what looks to me, what could be a blown head gasket, essentially. Now, I must stress again that I'm not an expert. I don't know what I'm doing. It's all guesswork as far as I'm concerned. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think happened to cause all those problems with Esther's engine. So do let me know in the comments, because I know that loads of you are way more knowledgeable than I am. My thoughts on it are that if the debris from the spark plug could have caused the damage to the piston and the cylinder head, then it must mean that another time where I took the plugs out to clean them, because that wasn't the first time that I've done it, then I must have dropped debris into cylinder 2. And that's why there's damage in cylinders 1 and 2. And obviously the fact that there was no debris in cylinder 2 is just because I've run the engine since then and it's obviously just blown all the debris out. Whereas since I've dropped the debris into cylinder 1, I haven't actually managed to start the engine. Other than that, maybe something else has caused the damage to the pistons and the cylinder head. Maybe that also caused the damage to the spark plug. Obviously, it's possible that I could have damaged the spark plug when, you know, fitting it or removing it. I do have a proper spark plug socket, but it's still possible. Now, I've read online before that a lean mixture can sort of cause damage to engine components. Now, I will say that I have full confidence in the map that I got from Chris Todd when Esther went on the rolling road. Chris himself owns an 8-second Subaru Impreza powered Mk1 Fiesta, and he's also responsible for tuning the Fraudster, which is a 7-second Vauxhall-powered Mk1 Escort drag racing car. So Chris Todd knows what he's doing when it comes to mapping, so I've got full confidence in the map. But one thing I have noticed is Esther's battery isn't really up to the job. I notice, you know, when I'm cranking the engine, that the fuel pump sound, the tone of it sort of changes. So it sort of leads me to believe that while I'm cranking the engine, the fuel pump isn't getting as much electricity. So maybe, and again, I'm guessing, maybe if the pump wasn't pumping hard enough, then that could cause a lean mixture. And it's worth noting that my fuel line actually goes into the back of the rail and then out of the front of the rail and returns back to the tank. So in theory, if the fuel pressure was slightly low, cylinders 3 and 4 would have more chance of getting the right fuel pressure compared to cylinders 1 and 2, because they're further away from the inlet of the fuel rail. But yeah, let me know in the comments if that sounds possible. But regardless, I am going to be getting a new battery for Esther, and I'm going to be doing some checks to make sure that the fuel pump is okay, the fuel pump wiring. Loads of you have also been in touch to tell me how I can actually test the injectors themselves. So yeah, massive thanks to everyone who sent me that advice. But yeah, I don't think the battery was up to the job. Massive thanks to Lee Weston, who's just purchased some merch. Really appreciate that. If anyone else wants to grab any Marcus Hayes merchandise, just head to my website at www.marcushayesuk.com. Now, another thing that I've read about that can cause damage to your engine involves the ignition advance. And I've actually had experience in the past where too much advance has actually killed a Pinto engine that was fitted to Esther. And that was when I tried to set the ignition timing by ear, when I had just upgraded the head to run a really Larry cam and I was running the stock bottom end. Now, again, I've got full confidence in the map, so I don't think the map has got anything to do with giving the engine too much advance. And as far as I know, there's no way that the ECU could wipe itself. Obviously, I haven't double checked yet to see if the map is still loaded into the ECU. I will be doing that before I even attempt to start any other engine in Esther. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that if the ECU was completely wiped, then, you know, the engine wouldn't even fire at all. The next thing I'm thinking is maybe the head gasket did fail. You know, maybe the fact that, as I explained earlier, the layers are separated, maybe that is a blown head gasket. Now, I'm not sure if a blown head gasket can cause that kind of damage to your piston or your cylinder head. But again, if any of you guys can tell me if it can or it can't, do let me know in the comments. Ultimately, the bottom line is the engine in Esther is no good. The head and the bottom end are damaged. So I'm going to be changing it. And I'm actually going to fit the ST170 engine that I've got on my stand that was supposed to be going in moored. And I want to fit that engine ASAP. You know, we're getting closer and closer to summer now. I don't want this to be a really long setback. I still want to try and get Esther on the road really soon. But I will be looking to purchase one or maybe even two other complete ST170 engines. Obviously, I'm going to need to build up another one to go in moored eventually. And I think I should get at least one spare. So if any of you guys know of any ST170 engines for sale, complete engines, preferably one that you've heard running, anywhere near London or anywhere near Northampton, because I go up there to visit my parents now and again, do let me know. Get in touch with me via social media and I'll get back to you. Now, once I do get the other ST170 engine into Esther, I'm not going to be in a hurry to fire it up, but I do want to get it fitted into the engine bay as soon as possible. And before I even try and fire it up, I'm going to check a number of things. You know, I don't want this to happen again. I'm going to check, as I said before, the fuel pump, just to make sure that with the new battery, it's getting enough juice and it's pumping the fuel at a high enough pressure. I'm going to check the injectors to make sure that they're not blocked and check that they're spraying correctly. I'm going to double check that the map that Chris did for me is still loaded into the ME221 ECU. And yeah, I'll be checking things like oil pressure, doing a compression test, you know, just checking over a load of things before I even try and fire up the engine. Now, every cloud has a silver lining, so I want to talk about the positives. Now that I'm changing the whole engine, I won't need to worry about if any of the debris from that spark plug has got down the side of the pistons and damaged the bores, or whether it's ended up in the oil and it's going to get dragged through any bearings later on. You know, the fact that I'm changing the engine now means that the debris itself isn't going to be on the back of my mind, you know, making me worry about future issues. Also, some of you may remember a while ago that I realised that when I put the crank pulley onto Esther's engine, there's a washer that's supposed to go behind it, and I had that in front of the pulley. And when I needed to remove the crank pulley to change the front main seal, it was really difficult to get the pulley off. Basically, I couldn't get it off. I tried everything, and I ended up having to use a hammer and a chisel and a lot of brute force. And I actually did touch the nose of the crank with the chisel. I tried to file the mark out as best as I could and sand it, but you know, it's always been in the back of my mind, you know, is that seal going to fail again? Because, you know, any mark on the nose of the crank, when it's rubbing round against the seal, it can tear the seal. So I was always worried that I'm going to end up having to keep replacing those crank seals. So that's another thing that I'm not going to have to worry about now. There's also a couple of other little things, like the plate on the bulkhead where the heater pipes go through. Originally, the Jubilee clips would be on the engine bay side, but the way I've got it is I've cut the heater pipes flush with the bulkhead, and the heater hoses go right through that plate, and the Jubilee clips are on the inside. With the pipes sticking out how they were, there's not much room between the pipes and the cylinder head. So to make more room for the cylinder head, I've cut them flush and I've got them done up inside, as I said. I didn't bore out the holes on the actual plate, The hoses do go through, but they're sort of touching on, you know, the edge of those holes. And I'm worried, like with vibrations and whatnot over time, that it may end up putting a little slit in the heater hose. So now that the engine's out of the way, it's easy for me to remove that plate from the bulkhead and bore those holes out in the plate so that the heater hoses have got plenty of room and they're not going to split. Another little thing, Esther's current ST170 engine was painted black when I cleaned up the block and painted it. And nowadays I prefer to paint my engine blocks silver because they show up oil leaks and stuff a bit better. And obviously the engine that I've got on the stand that was going to be going into Maud but is now going into Esther is actually painted silver. Another thing, when I painted Esther's current ST170 engine, I didn't paint the cylinder head. In my head I thought, you know, it's alloy, it's not going to rust, I don't need to paint it. But, you know, the alloy does go all horrible and it's got that weird white corrosion. But with Maud's ST170 engine that's now going into Esther, I actually painted the cylinder head as well. So this new engine is going to look a lot better than the old one. And as I say, it's going to show up oil leaks easier. And another little positive, when Esther was on the dyno, I had a little bit of a coolant leak from the thermostat housing part of the water rail. And now, once I've removed Esther's ST170 engine, I'll be able to clean the engine bay up really well before I put the other engine in. So yeah, plenty of positives about changing Esther's engine. And if the compression was low, like I suspect, then maybe with this other engine, there might even be a little bit more power, who knows. So that is it. That is what I found when I removed the cylinder head from Esther's engine. Sorry that I lost the files and I couldn't actually show you the footage of me removing the cylinder head. Do let me know in the comments what you think has caused the damage and, you know, what exactly has happened. And yeah, we'll have a discussion in the comments about it. But other than that, I'm going to end this video here. If you did think it was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe to keep up to date with all my future uploads and check the links in the description to my social media and my website. I'll also leave my email address down there for anyone who wants to contact me. Huge thanks to each and every one of you for your continued support of my channel. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.